Okay, we're live. Call the roll for the work session. Mr. Rich. Here. Dr. Houghton. Mr. Farley.
Here.
Mr. Fink.
Here.
Grooms.
Here.
Dr. Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Purcell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
First up tonight, we're going to be talking about the franchise policy review.
So this is in your packets, starting on page 2. And what this is this is an attempt to define policies for implementing some ordinance language we have that's not hyper-specific, and that lack of specificity has generated the need for clarification. And so there are three policies kind of areas that we're asking you guys to look at. Here's a fourth thing that's an ordinance amendment that I'll talk about that last. The first policy proposal is a policy implementing the ordinance language that states Section 1 is the area between 3rd Street or 3rd West and 3rd East. That's what the ordinance says. How you define the boundary as it relates to where 3rd West and 3rd East is the question. Currently, and this is mostly an issue on the west side, we've got the area right in front of 3rd Street West, which is a 50-foot right-of-way where the vehicle access to the beach is. It's kind of a no man's land, and we've got vendors in front of vendors competing for spots. We've just got overlap there in the footprint of 3rd Street West. Also important to note for this discussion, 3rd Street West, the walkover at the bathrooms is not in the right-of-way for 3rd Street West. It is to the south of 3rd Street West. I think and when people picture it in their minds, they call that 3rd Street, but the bathrooms and beach walkover are actually south of 3rd Street West. So staff's proposal here is illustrated on page 4, and that's just to take the language of the ordinance literally and say the boundary between sections is 3rd Street West, and just extend an imaginary line on the sides of the 3rd Street West 50-foot right-of-way. This would happen on the east too, but there are fewer conflicts down there. Run it out to the beach and say no vending, no renting, no chair set up. This is a buffer zone between vendors to eliminate confusion for customers, for operations, for beach patrol observation, for everybody. So that's the staff proposal. I know that we did get a public comment that you guys may have seen from one of the vendors asking that the definition not be the right-of-way of 3rd Street, but actually just center it over the walkway, because the walkway is, I think, what most people in their mind traditionally associate with the beach access there. So that would shift this whole thing down to place the beach walkover in the middle of the 50-foot buffer. So that's one thing we want to ask you guys to look at. You want us to kind of just go one by one on this, Mayor? And
Do you have a copy of the original contract that was signed with that language in it? Because we want to see exactly what was signed originally, because it's hard for us to go back and alter these contracts after people have already signed them for both cases. We're getting a lot of questions about turtles and what's been allowed. We know that that's been allowed. If we have it explicitly what was signed, and then
what was signed explicitly says the boundary between Section 1 is the area between 3rd West, or Section 1 is the area between 3rd West and 3rd East.
I wasn't just talking about this issue. I was talking about all the ones that we're having.
Yeah.
What was actually signed between the two parties, because it's hard to alter a contract after it's already been signed by both parties.
And for this particular issue and for all of the issues, what's in the contract is the ordinance language. And the ordinance language, the sum total of the ordinance language is, you have a franchise for Section 1, that is the area between 3rd West and 3rd East. So as applied on the ground, there is no guidance in the ordinance or the contract that says how we define for example, 3rd West. Does it stop at the northern boundary of 3rd Street West? Does it include all the way the full right of way? When the ordinance says section 1 is the area between Third West and Third East, where does that line fall on the ground? And so this is a policy to clarify how the city defines the boundary described by between Third West and Third East.
Do you have a copy of this for the east side? Showing this on the east side, because as long as they match, because it's always
Whatever,
been
yeah,
third
whatever.
to third, has always been the language that we've stuck to. I mean, because it's not, this is gonna come up multiple times tonight, not just with
Right.
this, it's gonna come up with other things, like with sharing the beach and shark fishing and everything. We keep surfers and swimmers 100 feet away from the pier to help fishermen. We keep the third as a swim zone and don't allow other activities. We make sure that we have access for everybody on the beach. It's our job to make sure everybody has fair access to it. So this is gonna come up over and over. So do we have another one for the
So
east side?
as noted in the memo-
Because I like the idea, third to third and having this buffer, and then that's it. But let's just make sure it's fair on both
So,
sides.
yeah, as noted here in the memo, this would apply to Third Street East and West. It would just run the right of way of Third East right out to the street, the same way it runs the right of way of Third West right
I
out to
can,
the street.
I understand that. I can read. I'm asking if you have a map, just like this one,
I
that
don't
shows you
have,
exactly.
I don't have a map, but we can get a map to illustrate that concept.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
All right, any other questions on the boundaries? All right. Direct beach sales.
All right, so the new ordinance says beach chair and umbrella rentals provided by vendors operating a franchise agreement with the city are allowed in section 1 and section 2. We previously met to discuss whether this would limit folks from only delivery, and council agreed that the language should be interpreted to allow both direct sales and delivery, because it says beach chair and umbrella rentals. It does not specify delivery, it does not specify on the beach sales. And so after that, staff was tasked with developing a policy to limit or describe the allowable activity that consists of direct allowable sales on the beach. So we're proposing that each vendor in each section, if they want to set up a physical location in a fixed spot, they only get 2 of those in each section. They can put it under their allowable tent, they can have their allowable sign beside it, but they can't have extra tents or extra signage to go with it out on the beach somewhere. And that they have to keep any fixed sales location 30 feet away from the beach access entry. So this wouldn't apply to handhelds. This is setting up a table with your cash box on the beach to rent chairs.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, so they're gonna set up tables in section 2 now, and we're gonna have 2 tables that are like they're setting up cash registers. I'm asking because they're all doing mobile pay, I'm sure.
Right.
So the need, this is, they don't need all that, and it's just more things to clog up the beach and become an issue later on. I'm so over all of this. Let's nail this down to as little as possible. They don't need 2 tables set up if they're just doing delivery of chairs. Mobile payments on the beach is already a step forward, than we had over years previous. I think just because the technology's there for that now. I mean, that's it. You have to also preserve the rights of all the franchises for what they bid on, which is why I asked for the original contract.
So the contracts contain the language, beach chair and umbrella rentals provided by vendors operating under a franchise agreement with the city are allowed in section 1 and section 2. A few months ago, I met with council to get their guidance on what that allowed, and council agreed that that allows both direct sales transactions and deliveries. Council asked, are we gonna describe the limits of direct sales and for a proposal? This is just a proposal to say if you're gonna allow direct sales on a fixed location, you get 2 spots. Council can certainly say, no fixed location, you must take handheld payments, and so no one gets a table. Council could say you could put a table with every beach work session. This is staff's proposal for council's discussion on what the limits of direct transactions on the beach would be.
I would tend to agree with Mr. Rich and say that the other tables aren't necessary. allowing them to have the beach sails and the handheld stuff. I don't think we need to start setting up, will be 2 tables, and then on those tables will be a cache of chairs and umbrellas leaned up against it, and it will be like a point of sale from there, and we should just say delivery and payments are allowed up and down the beach, and that's it, and like Mr. Rich said, no other tables. That's what I think.
And that's why we're having the discussion, because I
Yeah.
think we need to iron out some of these details that were kind of vague in the contract. So if that, I'm fine with that directive. I think handheld is good.
Seems more friendly to the end user.
Yeah, it's unobtrusive to
To mobile.
the beach.
Did this, when we did these contracts originally, I wasn't here when y'all did these, did Joe go through these and look for the legal points, like this of ambiguity and all that? I mean, we seem to have a lot of these little things, I'm just wondering, like I said, I wasn't here, so I'm wondering what the process was for that.
They were reviewed by me, by Joe, by city council, and they voted on, and they basically, they copied the language of the ordinance, which is vague and precise. And so that's why we're here. I don't think these are policy statements implementing the language of the contracts. I don't think anything we're deciding tonight would change the contracts. It's just giving us a guide on how we interpret the language in those contracts and the vendors.
Will we go back and update the ordinance to reflect now the amended contracts?
Well, you guys I think it would be in the best interest to fix the ordinance with as much specificity. That's why we're here now.
Okay.
But we don't need to. I mean, nothing we're deciding conflicts with the language of the ordinance, but it does more fully explain it.
I think that'd be useful, but whatever wording we decide on now, to put that back in the ordinance, so the next time when we pull the contract off the ordinance,
But after tonight, this could be effective as a policy.
Sure, right,
Informing that.
And I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
I would like, anything we decide about beach franchises to eventually make it into the ordinance to avoid this exact situation.
Just so we know, and I know this is not public information, this has to be confidential, can we get a list of exactly what our proceeds have been from these franchises for the past couple of years? Exactly what we've made, because honestly, I hope it's a lot. It's getting to the point where I really don't care about beach chairs anymore.
Anybody else, am I correct to read a general consensus that our current interpretation of beach chair and umbrella rentals provided by vendors is going to allow only mobile payment type things, no fixed locations? In terms of a tent on,
Other
a
than
table
what's
on the
already
beach?
allowed.
That's how I'm hearing it.
Other than what's already allowed.
Well, didn't we just give them a room somewhere?
What's that?
Didn't we just give them storage over there?
Over on Third.
Did we give them storage on Third?
Not all of them.
Just
that
we give
one.
storage
Just
to?
Andy Pratt has a lease.
Right.
And he's got a section 2.
Mhm.
So if you say no, I mean, if they, because see, now you run this, I hate these can of worms. We gave him storage there. I mean, he's got to be able to put some sort of signage at least, or something to let them know that they're bringing chairs to that whole section of the beach and they're delivering them. I don't think they need 2 tables and a cash box and umbrellas stacked up and all that. That's just excessive, but they need something. We gave them storage right there in their zone. This is what they were anticipating. You gotta give them something to be able to operate and be noticed, just to be fair like everybody else.
Each vendor does have a right now to put a sign on the beach.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was just so it would facilitate his delivery to the beach.
Sign on the beach helps, as long as it's something that everybody has access. It's gotta be fair for every person out there.
I think that looks good.
All right, and we'll get a map, hopefully we'll have time between meetings, we'll print a map for the Third Street East, but is everyone's good with just extending Third Street out to the beach?
I would keep it the same as that.
So the next, the last one is the all clear. So right now, the ordinance and the contracts both say, from May 1st to October 31st, no motorized vehicle may operate prior to the completion of turtle monitoring and the issuance of an all clear notice from the city or its designee. That sounds pretty clear cut to me, but we've had some questions. Each one of the vendors has now been cited for operating before the all clear. And what that brought to our attention is discussions between the turtle team and the vendors about the all clear, when it should be issued, should it be issued section specific, is it too late, is it too early? What counts as operating, is it just driving the ATVs, is it setting up the chairs? So we wanted to have this conversation first to establish that the turtle team gives the all clear. The city is not, and this is just a proposal, so you guys correct me, the city is not interested in dictating in any way to the turtle team when they should issue the all clear. They can take all morning if they need to. When they feel safe that the turtles are cared for, they can issue the all clear. If the turtle team wants to issue one all clear for the whole beach, they can do that. They're not required on our end to issue individual all clears for individual sections.
Aaron, can the city not issue the all clear and get the turtle team out of the middle here?
We can relay the all clear,
Yeah.
but we don't have the eyes on the ground to issue.
No, I'm not saying, well, I'm not eliminating the turtle team having said my section's clear, section one, my clear, you know, whatever, but have that official notification to the vendors come from the city.
What time do they normally get the all clear? Is there an average time? Like, I think it would be easier to say like, the all clear is at 9 o'clock unless otherwise directed by the turtle team. That way there has to be some sort of, once again, because of how things are written, we have to make sure that we're fair to everybody.
Right.
We wanna be fair to the turtles, we also need to be fair to them. There has to be some sort of time, and if there's an issue in a certain area, they say, okay, this area isn't all clear, the rest of it is. But by 9 o'clock, I just threw 9 o'clock out there, I don't know when it normally is.
And-
But there's some sort of time,
This has
make
been
it easier.
standard practice for, I don't know how many years, Dave, I'll ask you.
About 5.
5 years.
And
So
Mr.
it's-
Miller, do you know the average time of the all clear?
Well, it varies during the season from probably no earlier than 7 a.m., no later than maybe 8:45. Most of the time by 8:15 it's done. I don't think we've ever gone at 9 o'clock. But it depends on, you know, during peak season, we've got nests hatching and nests being laid and being relocated, it could take a lot longer.
So if we said 8 o'clock, we might ask fast, Dave, but if we said, say, the all clear's at 8 o'clock unless y'all direct otherwise, would that would give y'all enough time to say, okay, hey, this section we're not, or you can't open on this section, the rest of it's fine. I'm just trying to find some sort of time, that way it's just consistent. You know, we need consistency at some point with this, just to be fair to everybody. You said you've never gone to 9, I don't know what the chair people think, what time they normally start.
No, I think from the I'm gonna defer to you on this, but is that even practical from the standpoint of doing what you guys need to do?
Is what practical?
Given a set time, I'm just asking. 'Cause it,
I don't think it'll be helpful because I think we wouldn't be hitting that time very often, and we'd be giving different times every morning. I think letting us just report when it's done, and whenever that is easiest for us.
and you have been doing that for 5 years, correct?
We've been doing that for 5 years. We started internally, so the section leaders know when they can go to Harris Teeter. They don't have to run out to the beach. And then the renourishment happened. So then we really complicated it by including the dredge companies, and we would say all clear, you know, west of Summer Place Lane or wherever the dredge may have been. And then we're hoping to get back to just normal, all clear when we're done. And that's generally, I would say, by 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Is it, Dave, is one section earlier than the other one on a consistent basis, or do you see it?
Generally, the far east from washout east to the inlet is the last area that's clear.
Okay. And the first one, would you say?
First one would be Middle East, where Vanessa is, from the pier to 13 East.
Okay.
They're go-getters. and
Yeah, she's
they-
special like
They
that.
clear the beach a bit earlier, but sometimes it's later. Now, what we have been doing is giving a little bit of controversy with this, but we've been doing a section 1 all clear. So when the sections have walked from 3 east to the pier and 3 west to the pier, then then we give a section 1 all clear. That is usually by 7 o'clock. Then, now it's gonna be later because it's darker later. And then later, maybe 7:30 to 9 o'clock, 8:30 or so, we would give a section 2 all clear.
So it would be reasonable to say section 1 by 8 AM and section 2 by 9 AM. And then that way it just makes it easier for you guys too, because you don't have to call it in every day if it's closed unless there's an issue and you need to close it off later. And then that way they know a consistent time. They're not gonna get out there earlier than that. You're good, that gives a little bit of a buffer time. So section 1 gets an hour earlier, section 2 goes and waits an hour, which I think is fair because they're delivering chairs, not setting them up. So that, we're just trying to find a common ground for everybody here. And just waiting on you guys, I mean, just take some of the onus off of you. You don't need to do it unless there's an issue.
We've been doing that all season. We've been doing
I understand.
2 all clears.
I understand, but it's not translating to everybody. They've gotten tickets for starting early because, maybe somebody told them all clear, but the official all clear hadn't gone out. We're talking a matter of 3 minutes. The one guy got a ticket. So let's just, if there's a time that you know it's gonna be all clear by, and then they know a time that they can definitely start by, it just makes it easier if everybody knows a certain time unless there's an issue. You know, it's 99% of the time, from what it sounds like, it's fine.
Well, he also just said more often than not, they don't hit that time, is that
I mean,
correct?
if we just look over the last couple of weeks, if we said, 7 o'clock all clear in section 1, we would've had to hold that up because we had turtles, coming out and running all over the place, and we didn't want them being run over. We had an adult turtle that was stuck on the beach, wouldn't crawl to the water. So,
I understand that, but that would be an issue that you would tell them, okay, you can't start yet. I'm sorry, maybe I'm not explaining this right.
well, we'd have.
Y'all are done checking it, so the beach is all clear by 8 AM, say section 1, and y'all see you're done way before that. But that gives these guys time, and they don't really need to be out there setting up chairs before 8 o'clock in the morning. I think that's
If we
a
said
halfway.
8 AM for section 1, I think we could meet that 95% of the time.
Right, and then if there is an issue, you just tell them, hey, today, and it still says contingent on issues from Turtle Team.
And we've done that. We say, hold up. There's a
Right.
whole, you know,
And that
maybe
goes for the
there's
whole
rain
beach.
and we haven't
That's
gotten out
anywhere.
there in time.
But I think 8 for section 1 and 9 for section 2, then that makes it, you don't have to sit and worry about reporting all day unless there is an issue. You know, these guys can just do their thing. If they finish earlier, that's fine. These guys don't necessarily need to start at 7:45 instead of 8. 8 o'clock's a good time. But then if there is an issue, you can just tell them, and it stops what they're
We can
doing.
do that. We can have a defined time for section 1 and section 2, and if something happens and that's delayed, then we can communicate that. And we're pretty efficient at communicating that quickly.
It's just a lot easier as you're going through normal daily operations, you know, to have a certain time that you can start by, as long as it's gotta be fair for everybody. I think something like that, we're a lot easier with something like that. It's a
I'd
hard
like to
time.
confer with the section leaders on exactly what those times are. It might be 8 o'clock, maybe it's 8:30, 7:30.
Yeah.
We have to call, I mean, we want to set those times tonight.
Our whole thing, no, and I think our thing is, if that decision for the all clear resides with you guys, because you are out there doing the work. So I wanna make sure that whatever we do matches the actual, what's taking place on the beach. So I don't wanna make assumptions without, real knowledge, but if you can give us times that give us some guidance, then, you know, again, it's your call. We're not sitting here trying to dictate to you, though.
Yeah, we could give you
Well, we have to, on special occasions where you got like a stuck turtle or you've got an eruption of the eggs or whatever, and you say, whoa, do we have to write in that they have the authority to hold off even after the set time?
It's in the
Or
contract.
are we gonna like just look at our vendors and say, hey, if there's a special circumstances and they say, stay out of this area, they'll stay out of this area? But it seems like lately, if we don't have it written, we're not.
Well, the all clear is
sure
in
it's
the
gonna happen.
contract, so they know that work can't start before.
That's in the contract, okay.
Right now, it says, no motorized vehicle may operate prior to the completion of turtle monitoring and the issuance of an all-clear notice from the city where it's designated.
So let me just throw this out there. I'm gonna pick on her because she's sitting in front of me. Kristen just comes out, she's mad one day, all right? She's mad. She just doesn't wanna give you all clear until 11 o'clock in the morning, just because. Prove her wrong, all right? You can call her in and prove her wrong. She's part of her team. You just gave her total authority to do that and stop all this other stuff from happening just because she woke up mad.
Well, they've had the total authority for 5 years and haven't done anything that I would warrant.
And none of this has been an issue until now. You're like it has.
I don't believe.
Not like this. I don't care. I'm telling you, it hasn't been an issue like it has. We had chairs on the beach, and they just realized it this year. So, you know, that's what I'm saying, this stuff is really getting noticed and recognized right now, and everybody is, you've seen some of the emails we've got. I mean, I'm just saying that you have to make sure that it's fair for everybody, not just one, and I get it, but I love them, I have nothing wrong with them, but who's to say what side of the bed she wakes up on? You just gave her control with no oversight.
No, that we asked Dave to give us times for each section. So when he defines that, then we,
Okay.
I understand where you're going, but if we have to assume that people are gonna deal in good faith here. These are volunteers, they're not
I
out to screw
understand,
anyone.
I understand. And if we're getting the set times, that's fine, that's what I was pushing for.
That's fine.
But you kept going back to, well, it's been, to give the all clear, well, that's what we're trying to get away from, is just inconsistencies. If they forget to send a text out for 20 minutes, and somebody brings a chair out and gets a ticket, we can avoid all of that if we get the set times.
What I was going toward, okay, say the set time's 8 o'clock, and they're out there and they're still working. 8 o'clock's not written in stone, they can take as much time as they need to get the job done. That's all I was saying.
Okay. You just said the same thing I did.
No, that's fine, I was just agreeing with you that you won't let me do it.
Well, I'm a little bit confused then, so if we set the time and something peculiar happens and they need to go past the time, what mechanism is it that allows them to say, this is a special circumstance? It's 10 o'clock, but all clear was supposed to be at 9, but it can't be all
Well,
clear.
you'd have to use your text messaging that you're using now just to say, section 1 is on hold until whatever.
But do we have to have that written in that, like Mr. Rich is saying?
Yeah,
If 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock is the time, then anything after that, we should at least have a mechanism in there that says they have the authority.
Code
to say-
red or something, some kind of a key that tells them where to go.
So
Yeah.
it will require, prior to that time, the turtle team identifying whatever reason they want to hold it for and communicating it to us.
So let me so as long as they're done, say we set a time at 9, as long as the turtle team is done by 9, they don't have to say anything to anybody. Chair people can start at 9. The only time they're gonna say something is if it's over that time, correct?
That's
So,
what
okay,
I'm
so
saying.
we're all on the same page, okay.
Yeah, that's,
Well, I will give an all clear every day, whether or not you want it. If you want to be in the text group, then you'll get it. If you don't want to be in the text group, you won't get it, because we implemented this, so we would know internally when each section is done. So even if you guys, even if you say, we're done at 8 o'clock, I'm still gonna issue an all clear at 7:45 or at 8:15 or whenever we're actually all clear, so we know internally. Now, if we say it's at 8 o'clock, and we don't give it all clear, are people gonna go out at 8 o'clock? Or
unless you say something, yeah.
unless-
That's what we're saying, you don't have to
say
give an all clear every day, only if it's gonna be later than that time.
So,
Not externally
So
anyway.
we just write it as 8 o'clock or the all clear, whichever comes later.
Or sooner, it can come
Or
earlier.
sooner.
I think later, I mean, whatever, that's fine, I think we're close enough. I'm not
Dave,
going
do
down
each
this
of the
hole anymore.
vendors have access to the text message all clear?
everybody who has asked,
Yeah.
or they go to the city and the city asks me and I add them. So I've added anybody that's wanted to be on it, communicate that to me.
Okay.
So there are about 15 people on it now. And by the way, to address Skip's question, dispatch is on it. So if the city wanted to be the ones notifying the chair companies, they could give that to dispatch, and dispatch could do it, and I could take the chair companies off of my text group, so it could be done.
When we talked about that, we could, yeah, so.
I'd rather not, because the chair companies are really good at jumping on junk that's, getting junk off the beach. I put it in my all clear, say, hey, there's a broken umbrella at 3 East, and they'll take it off. And I don't wanna lose that.
Well, if you can get us the times for each section, that would be huge.
All right, I'll give you the time.
I think it'd be important too to get some vendors' input as well of, is that enough time to set up? Do you get requests from people wanting to do chairs to be early? I mean, I don't know.
I think this is all driven by getting them out as efficiently as possible, so
Okay,
it should be a win-win, I guess.
okay.
All right, so next, and there's a typo here where it says vendors may not operate earlier than the all clear. should say operate motorized vehicles, because I do want to call attention to the language in the ordinance. This is only about operating motorized vehicles. This is not about any and all vendor activity on the beach. If these vendors want to walk chairs out at 5 o'clock in the morning, they're not prohibited from doing that if they want to.
Okay.
The ordinance only says that motorized vehicles cannot operate before the all clear. It does not say that no beach vendor can be on the beach doing anything prior to the all clear. So I do want to make sure that that's what the limitation of the ordinance is now. If we want to fix that, we have to fix it in the ordinance. This does not change that. Just make sure that I understand the policy for the all clear will continue to be that they can't operate before the all clear, but the all clear will generally fall between 8 and 9, and so we're gonna write it as the times Mr. Miller gives us, or the all clear if the all clear is later. Yeah. Because when the all clear comes out earlier, that'll authorize them to do it. And if it's not gonna happen, that will keep Mr. Miller from having to email. The all clear will be delayed 30 minutes.
Well, that diffused the purpose of having a time. That's what I was trying to get to, is just make it as easy as possible. If their businesses know that it's gonna be all clear at 8 o'clock, and if the turtle team knows it's gonna be done by 8 o'clock, then he doesn't have to call in every morning.
Right,
I don't
so-
think they don't need to start at 7:30 anyway.
Well, okay, so regardless of what
It
happens.
goes the other way.
We have to have a system for what happens when it is delayed.
If it's gonna be later than that, then he calls you, and that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying, or the all clear, whichever is later. So
Yeah.
if the all clear is gonna be later, they can't operate. Like at 8
Okay.
o'clock, if they haven't gotten the all clear, they know they can't go on until they get the all clear. If they get the all clear earlier, they know they can't.
Okay, you're talking about it all clear, I guess I'm talking about, there's an issue. Like, we assume it's going to be clear by 8, so they can start at 8 every morning unless they get a thing, there's an issue. You're saying, so they're, just because they haven't, I'm trying to separate it too, because he's gonna send out an all clear whenever they're done. I was saying if there's an issue in that area, say, hey, there's an issue in your area, you can't start yet. Even though we know, you can start at 8 unless there's an issue. Like, it's just language
Do you give
choices.
the all clear when there's, like, you don't give an all clear and then say there's an issue, you wait till the issue's over to give, how does that work?
If there's an issue, what I'll say is there will be a delay in the all clear.
All right.
I don't give the all clear. You know, I'm gonna go back, look over the whole season, I have all the all clear at the times. And I would bet you that the section 1 all clear has never been beyond 8 o'clock, and the section 2 all clear has never been beyond 9 o'clock. So if you said 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, I think that's good 100% of the time. And what will happen is, an all clear will be issued, I predict, before 8 o'clock for section 1, before 9 o'clock for section 2. In the event that doesn't happen, then before 8 o'clock, then I'll send a text saying, hey guys, we're delayed this morning.
That's perfect.
So if they don't hear anything by 8 o'clock, they're good to go.
That's easy.
But let me verify those times.
So those are the 3 policies that have come up just operating. So there's a 4th thing here that evolved from conversations with the vendors, but is not a vendor request. I think everyone's well aware that our ordinance allows heavy-weighted chairs to be on the beach overnight. The contract, which is based on the ordinance, allows heavy-weighted chairs to be on the beach overnight. At the beginning of the franchise awards, we all talked about it, and we recognized that that's allowed. It was allowed when the things were bid out, and so it's legal for the time being, and we're trying to continually operate in a way to encourage these guys to talk to each other, work out a compromise, what the vendors are willing to do. And so one thing we're proposing, if the vendors agree and want to take advantage of it, is offering a 3rd ATV for setup in return for using the power of that 3rd. This is slightly different from what the vendor proposed. In return for using that vendor to at least consolidate, if not fully remove, the heavy chairs on a daily basis. So if a vendor says, hey, I'm willing to move these heavy chairs, I just need more equipment to get it done on a daily basis, we make that or for them. Not giving them an extra ATV just to move other things or to not address the chairs. But if we can finesse the rules to allow them to make reload or pulling them back from the beach, consolidating them, some alteration to where they are, we want to give them the tools to do that. How do you guys feel about that idea?
What would be the turtle team's view? Would a third ATV be a lesser evil than permanent chairs or heavy chairs spread out in section one?
I don't think a third ATV would have any impact because it's gonna be in, at daylight and the turtles are not around unless there's a nest being hatched nearby, and we tell people, the chair companies, hey, stay away until we've got all the hatchlings. I don't think that would have any impact on.
So in the interest of turtles, you would rather have heavy chairs consolidated into a smaller footprint and a third vehicle out there?
Yeah, the further from the water they can get, and off the beach would be best, but the further from the water they can get, the better.
And that was the intention of this, is to kind of give the vendors some extra support with the extra ATV, but at the same time get the lounge chairs off the beach.
Do all the vendors have heavy chairs, or is it just one?
It's two vendors in section one.
Okay.
And this,
And has your conversation been with both of the section ones or just?
we just kind of came up with this after another conversation with one of the vendors about a third ATV.
Well, they're both here, would they both want to do that or?
We can have that. How would that impact your business as far as, because our goal is to see this as a win-win. Help you guys with a little extra equipment and also enable you to get those lounge chairs at least aggregated in a spot that's not so obtrusive for the, instead of spread out, more congregated.
If you're asking me, it's not the win-win. The use of a third ATV, if we were to move half of those heavy loungers off the beach completely, would allow us to bring more single chairs out with that third ATV. That is a partial part of what would make it successful for us, but we came up with a solution, without understanding that this was a problem with turtles. When we signed the contracts, we invested heavily in what we thought would be a workable business thing. And so now that it's come that the turtle team is like, no, these are terrible, we want to.
SCDNR, that kind of stuff, not just the turtles.
Well, I get it, but we didn't get it before, and we weren't told before, right? So we make this huge investment, right? So just getting us a third ATV does not help us move big, heavy loungers. It does not. We would have to take them off the beach and move small, singular loungers.
You couldn't move them to another location,
It takes, not daily, not in the mornings, not in the afternoons. I don't think we're willing to try it for the rest of this season and to like take some off the beach, if that's helpful. We'd like to show that third ATV is not impactful and it is like a problem for anyone, but that's why Mike came up with the idea of like taking half of the big heavy loungers completely off the beach and seeing if that's a win. And there's other things that have to come with that too, that we can't just say, hey, we'll volunteer to take all of our expensive equipment off the beach.
I was hoping you could just bring them back to a centralized spot to keep that distribution of the chairs from being so great on the beachfront there.
Yeah, well, I think that Dave would agree that our chairs are not way down the beach. They're kind of centralized within a half block radius. But if you're asking me, can we move those heavy loungers on a daily basis, the answer is no. They're either there or they're off the beach.
What prohibits you from moving them? I'm just curious.
The other issue is, if you were to be able to move, where do you move?
I was,
Yeah.
well, Dave just said anywhere, further back out of the beach there. I mean, just, or even consolidate them in a smaller footprint is better than having them spread out.
mean,
So-
we could put them in front of each other, like, in one area here instead of like this, that's not a problem.
That would be,
Stack them.
yeah.
We can't
We did
stop
that
them.
before.
We can't stop them.
Why
But,
not?
you know, if you could consolidate those in any way, I think you have less impacts. But that's the thing.
So Wendy, you indicated that you might be willing to float a test balloon for the remainder of the season, right? To give it a shot. Is that still an option on the table?
That's what we proposed, just for the rest of the season. The season's coming to an end, you know, it's on the downward slope.
And so we could study how that works and if that is amenable and that
Yeah.
allows.
And there's other issues too that we don't wanna take all the time with today, but, you know, storage is an issue. If we take these off, then we have more equipment that we have to put somewhere and we have to move it, and it's labor cost and everything. We wanna do the right thing, we are trying to come up with solutions that help the turtle team.
Yeah, I don't think we're asking to take them off as much, just condense that footprint. I think that would be a benefit to everybody.
The ATV has to be parked in some facility on the beach.
Well, it doesn't get parked overnight though.
Go ahead. All right, well, anybody else got any feedback on this? All right.
All right. Next up, we have local adoption of federal state law requirements for drone operation and enforcement of prohibitions against commercial activity on the public beach. Last month, we had proposed an ordinance that would prohibit mechanically assisted fishing using drones, basically to drag lines or drop bait. After we put that ordinance on the agenda, we were contacted by the state, who scheduled a meeting with us. They came and they reviewed what they view as their primary authority to regulate all things fishing related, and let us know that should that ordinance be challenged, they would gladly support the challenge to our ordinance. But that general drone regulations, not specific to fishing, probably would not raise any red flags with them, and so they kind of sent us down a path of general drone regulations. And in our research, we found a new state law that goes into effect in January that basically copies a lot of requirements for federal regulations for drone operations. And we think that adopting a local ordinance to mirror those requirements so we could locally enforce them could help us regulate drones without targeting fishing specifically. There's two kind of parts to that. One is that the federal law, especially for folks who are operating drones commercially as part of a commercial operation, it's not a huge hurdle, but it is a hurdle. They have to be certified as remote pilots, they have to have the drone registered, and importantly, they have to keep a copy of that license handy and produce it when asked for law enforcement. And so one thing we could do is just simply patrol the beach and ask drone operators, are you here for a business or commercially, and ask them to show their certification. If they don't have one, we would be able to cite them and ask them to leave. Recreational drone operators, so these would be for those folks who are not part of a fishing guide or onshore fishing charter. The general public also has a kind of a pretty basic safety test that they have to do, and you're required by federal law to keep that proof on hand too. So just being able to go out on the beach to folks who are operating drones and say, hey, you're operating a drone, can you provide that you're properly certified and that your drone has been properly registered? If they can't provide that proof, that'd be a first step of asking them to go somewhere and take care of that before they came back and operated a drone. There's also a provision, and let's see what page. On page 10, kind of about a third of the way down, item C in 134.63. So if you look at 134.64, enforcement and penalties, and walk up 2 lines to item C, it shall be unlawful to operate a drone in a careless or reckless manner so as to endanger the life or property of another or allowed object to be dropped from a small unmanned aircraft in a manner that creates an undue hazard to persons or property. And so we believe, and DNR has reviewed this ordinance, and they believe that this would give us an opening to someone who was recklessly or in an unsafe manner dragging things along by a drone. So it's not fishing specific, it's just focusing on the fact that a drone dragging something through a crowded area of the beach, which may or may not entangle folks, could be cited under this section too. So it's not about fishing or stopping people from fishing, it's about the careless and reckless operation of drones. So kind of the first part of the package would be to abandon the drone fishing ordinance and adopt this drone safety and certification ordinance to give us the power to make sure people who are operating the drones are trained the way they're supposed to be. And also, if we see someone who's operating a drone that creates unsafe conditions, we could cite them under that ordinance. The second part would be a good, thorough search for unlicensed commercial activity on public property. The city already prohibits any commercial activity on the beach that isn't expressly approved by council. You guys have approved beach chair and umbrella franchises, surf camp franchises, surf lessons, yoga lessons, and group fitness classes. Weddings and photography are exempt. We believe, and we've been provided evidence, that there are folks out here advertising yoga lessons that don't have approval, shore-based fishing charters that don't have approval, shark fishing tours that don't have approval. And so, paired with the drone ordinance, we'd ask the business license department to just do a Google search, find all the people who are advertising commercial services on Folly Beach, advertising as a form of commercial activity, and start investigating and citing people for unapproved commercial activity on the beach. And we think that those two things together could reduce some of the drone fishing related conflicts, but not necessarily target those behaviors specifically. DNR did confirm that their opinion is that we do have the right to allow commercial activity, and that regulating commercial activities as opposed to general recreational activities is a valid course in their opinion. So those two things would kind of be the first steps, and then later, if that didn't work, and we thought it was an even bigger issue, the law does give municipalities the ability to set conditions on where drones can take off and land. Sullivan's Island actually prohibits any drone takeoffs within their community unless they've gotten a permit from the city. I don't know if we're ready to go that far, but it is possible. We do have the local ability to regulate where drones can take off and land, and that's kind of a proxy for where they can operate.
I like the language without going that far, but it's all gonna come down to you guys and enforcement. So what is y'all's plan? Because another thing that Aaron hit on, we just got signs ordered for the approved beach franchises, but we don't go down to the beach with ticket pads. Your guys do. So they're gonna, I'd like to see them go through some educational things about update all of them on current beach laws and what they really need to look out for, because it's, unauthorized beach commercial businesses are a lot bigger than we all think. And it's not right, it's not fair to the other ones who pay and do things the right way. So we do need to get that kind of under control. And I know a lot of times those guys don't know. They don't come to council meetings, they might not know what's going on. They all have different mindsets, they hear things third party. So at the same time, when we approve all this stuff, I'd like to see a contract over from you guys just to hold a little refresher courses with them maybe every so often. Just say, hey guys, this is a hot topic right now, we need to be on the lookout for it. We got a nice big sign here, show me one of the signs, they're noticeable, that's for sure. So if they don't have one of those, that's an easy way they can go up to them, but it's just gonna take all of us to make a dent in it. I don't wanna prove any feel good, makes us feel good, then we still got the same problems out there.
I did have one question under 134.64, number E. It talked about the provisions of this article do not apply to military detention facility or correctional, et cetera, et cetera. Does that, and could we include federal, state agencies, law enforcement, police, fire, on that as well? Because I know that these drones that you guys have on both departments, and even in searching for a manhunt sometimes, come in handy.
I had the same concern, 'cause it
Yeah.
doesn't address like Corps of Engineers might wanna use a drone to do some surveying or something like that,
Well,
or,
they have the jurisdiction to do that.
but we don't, we say.
Well, we're not
it doesn't
saying,
apply to
yeah.
all these places, but.
That's just fine for reckless manner. I mean, if they're doing what they're supposed to, or somebody's using a drone to take pictures of a house, or if I've got a drone just flying around messing with my dog, that's fine as long as it's not in a reckless manner. That's what these violations are,
I'm talking
spelling
about
out.
E, where it says.
Yeah.
Enforcement
The
of penalties.
provisions of this article do not apply to military detention or.
You wanna have
correctional.
law enforcement?
I think it should just be government.
Well, that.
Government, yeah, but they're not doing anything egregious with them either.
I don't know, other than to tell you, this is the exact language of the federal statute.
Federal state.
and the
I mean, could
state
we add
statute.
ours on there, was what I'm asking. Just to be clear, I mean, it would include that, but also include our people as well,
Just make it.
or other agencies.
Just add that as an amendment, we'll get to.
Okay. Thank you.
Local public safety.
All right, well, I mean, I was the one that originally introduced this conversation and this potential ordinance. I'm not really happy about it, but it's sort of like imprisoning Jimmy Hoffa for tax evasion instead of, stealing money from the government. But if it's an end around, it does the same thing, and if we can regulate it, and if we can make sure that every single person has a license, and that means if there's 4 people there, every single person that touches a pole has a license, I guess I can swallow that. The other thing is, I'm concerned about what happens after 5 PM. I mean, after 5 PM, when we don't have, ATVs running up and down the beach that are enforcing this, I'm concerned that now we're asking citizens to call public safety to do this. And they simply can't run down the beach fast enough to do it, so I'm a little concerned about the enforcement part. However, if public safety feels like they've got that covered, I'm certainly not gonna micromanage their operations. So, I mean, I guess it's a compromise. I agree with some of the conversations here that going too far might be the fact of the taking and landing, or taking off and landing, although Sullivan's Island did it, seems appropriate to me, but I don't know if that's the consensus here. I would prefer it be that, but I will definitely support the latter, or the former, in regards to making sure that we can.
And this could evolve, if
Yeah.
it continues to be an
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. I think there's also an issue in just terms of the use of drones fishing. Okay, they're not running a mile offshore. Yeah. And we know we have the first mile, Folly Beach can govern the first mile offshore, right? But there's also an issue in terms of education of what happened post-beach renourishment. And I've had this conversation with multiple people. My 5-year-old nephew can walk a quarter mile off site and still stand in the water. Stand up in the water, okay? A half a mile or a quarter mile off, off the beachfront. And if that's the case, clearly drones that are dropping hooks that get caught in eyes and get caught in, everywhere else for that matter. It could be a potential when you're driving across the surface when somebody can stand up at 5 feet of water when they're a quarter mile off. So I'm very concerned about, the lack of understanding about drone operators using this equipment when it's not deep. When you can't pull a fish a quarter mile offshore at 100 feet deep. They're pulling it at 3 feet, okay? And at 3 feet, because it goes like this, at 3 feet, there's no way you can avoid some kind of entanglement. There's absolutely no way to avoid that. It's just a matter of time. But if we can do some kind of education too, Mr. Mayor, that allows those individuals as part of that, credentialing and the FAA credentialing, because that, I don't know how hard of a hurdle that is, but it doesn't seem to be that it would be an easy hurdle.
Seems to be a low hurdle.
Okay.
But again, the ordinance is written in such a way that careless and reckless is pretty open-ended, so.
I agree, and our attorney actually mentioned that to us as well last time we met on this. So I guess the only concern I have is enforcement after 5 PM, and you know, public safety thinks they have their arms around that, but I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, it's a 7-mile beach and we have 3 to 4 officers at any given time. I mean, I can definitely tell you that I'm gonna get with our patrol commander and make sure that the guys are keeping an eye out, but ultimately, we are gonna need that public-private partnership.
What about the use of all these cameras that we're getting ready to install on the beach? I mean, you know,
Maybe we'll show some of it.
it's a surveillance system. Okay, well, it's on the agenda for this conversation. But it's, let's just say, what about the current cameras that are out there, right? Because that is the most obviously concerned area that we have where most of the swimmers are and most of the surfers are. So if that's the case, why can't we leverage that as part of the conversation after 5 p.m.? I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. You tell me, but.
We'll definitely do some public messaging around this and everything else, so I think
And what about signage? You think signage is?
we can put signs for the rip currents, we can do signs for that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, what's that?
Next up is a proposal for the departmental reorganization in the business licensing department. Prior till, I'm gonna say mid-2022, early 2022, business license department was a one-person show. In 2022, when we passed our increased rental registration requirements in September of that year, we hired 4 additional people to be STR compliance officers. This was pre-cap even. We had 4 folks working underneath the business license official, and their official purview was STR ordinance compliance. Shortly after we hired them, after the cap came into effect, we started having mission creep for those 4 folks, and then it became general code enforcement and STR licensing. And then over time, there was some more mission creep, and it became a business license official overseeing essentially 4 business license clerks who were in charge of business licensing in general, not just STR enforcement and general code enforcement. Last year, we tried to kind of undo some of that. We pulled one person from the business license team and gave them the Eric's team to separate general code enforcement away from STR code enforcement. And we were left with kind of a hybrid situation of a business license official overseeing 3 folks whose job title said STR compliance, but real job function was licensing clerk, including STR compliance. So now that the building official seat is vacant, I think we have an opportunity to kind of recognize that evolution formally by reorganizing the department. And this has been done in conjunction with Terry and Peyton, who are 2 surviving members of the business license team from 2022. They've had extensive input on this. We've basically asked them, how are things actually playing out on the ground on a day-to-day basis with your jobs? What have been the procedural holdups? What are the roadblocks? Like, what's not working in the department, and what would it work? What would it take to make it really work? And so out of that conversation came this proposal to essentially remove the siloing of STR-specific duties. So make the licensing department a licensing department, not a licensing and STR department. Just a licensing department. So we still maintain 3 employees, but we'd get rid of that kind of artificial wall that didn't really hold up over time anyway in the actual function of the department, and make sure everyone knows you're all responsible for doing business licenses. You all may occasionally work the front desk. You should all know what an ACTS code is. You should all know how to tell a mobile vendor what the rules are. Just the general business license, business operations. All of them should be generally conversant and responsible in those. And then specialize out each role with the added layer above that. So they all have this core responsibility for business license department functions, but then each one has specific additional duties. The business license official, it's something we need because there are things that only a business license official can do, but mainly they would supervise the department, manage the department. They'd be responsible for all the, I'm gonna call it technical duties of the business license official, doing our biannual update of the rate codes, doing official interpretations of the business license ordinance, providing certain signatures on official notices, things that are required by state or local statute to be signed or done by the business license official. Those would be the business license official's duties. And also, even though it's always been part of the job, but just to specifically call it out, the business license official would team up with the public safety business liaison unit to kind of create an in-house business services group. The public safety business liaison group is already out in the field, making, in-person contact with local businesses. So the business license official would serve as the point inside the administration side as that go-to contact for our businesses. So that's, been implied by the job duties, but this would make it formal. So that's the business license official's kind of separation. And then underneath the business license official, we'd have a license coordinator who would kind of be the lead staff person for those daily operational things, investigating reports, conducting zoning review. That's coordinating with, well, not a person, the zoning department to make sure, is this new business allowed? What are the zoning requirements? Tracking with Eric's team for fire inspections, tracking with Amber and the permitting desk for contracting license. So their specialty would kind of be administering the day-to-day duties, which they all share, but the primary one. And importantly, they would be expected to attain all the same business license official certifications so that we have a redundancy in that position. So that's the license coordinator. And then the last one we've named the license system specialist. So this is still a licensed clerk who issues licenses, makes copies, sends letters, does the things. But we want this person to specialize in the rental software and the licensing software and the code enforcement software that you guys allowed us to purchase a few years ago. That code enforcement software, I think that's a bad name for it. It's really more of a centralized records location, and it is, in theory, when fully utilized, going to combine the building department's files with the business license files, so we have all our property records together. That has not been fully implemented yet due to the vacancy. So the system specialist would still be a licensed clerk, but their job would be to sit down there with the rental scape and figure out how to make it run the reports it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to automate letters like it's done, to track down the data discrepancies. This year during renewal season, we had the best renewal season ever, but it wasn't the best it could be because there were tons and tons of mismatched data in the rental software that no one had been able to dedicate themselves to fixing. So this person would be the primary person responsible for software function and maximizing potential. So we'd have the same number of people, the same budget, would just be changing how their joint and individual responsibilities are laid out. So we wanted to run that by you guys and see how.
I would say take a common sense approch. Your city administrator,
I
Mr. Mayor,
agree.
just do what you need, I think is best for the
I think
city.
it's great. As
Yep.
Aaron and I spoken several times, having a
run
point
it.
person for business, it clears up so many hangups and people get sent to the wrong person and just kind of getting the runaround. Having one person as their go-to is great, from zoning to any question possible. And then having just detailed descriptions on down, that's a great separation.
I agree, and in the interest of time, I think the authority within obviously the mayor and the staff have already done a tremendous due diligence on this, logic for the reorganization.
It had to be in the same budget.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Next is the RFP for the SCR study.
So, RFP for the STR study. So we've done a lot of work to get to this point, and we're ready to advertise and get bids back to find out who is going to do our RFP study. The RFP is not designing the study. It's structured in such a way to make people show us who's most qualified, most aligned with our vision to do the study. And I'm trying to, for Tom, to condense it. But basically, the RFP is structured in such a way that the vendors, well, let me just walk through it. So each proposal will have, of course, a description of the firm and relevant examples of their past work. But importantly for us, they're gonna be directed to look at our STR timeline, which we are working on, making sure it's fully updated. Review all the history of it and come back and say, we know city council, I'm just gonna use one example, has an alternative for allowing 72-day rentals for all. We, knowing what we know as as a respondent, we think this is how you could do that. This is how it would interact with the existing cap. This is the data we'd use, how to study it, and this is our waiting for how you would do it. And they would take each one of those 7 things, propose to us their methods and data, just in the RFP to give you guys an introduction to who they are, how they want to attack this problem. We'll get those, we'll score them, and the winning bidder will then come back, and the first step will then be come to this building with you guys and have a meeting to define terms. When you say allow 72-day rentals for all, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean throw away the cap, everyone gets a 72-day rental? Does that mean keep the cap, everyone who's not got a license now can get a 72-day rental while they are on the wait list? Actually defining the specific things we mean with that language, and then defining with you guys the specific types of data that they're gonna use to measure them. That way we're all crystal clear on exactly what is being studied, how it's gonna be studied, and where that data is gonna come from. Just as an example, I was here at a meeting recently where someone had provided housing data and they used Zillow Zestimates. That's not the same as the Charleston County Trident, the Charleston Trident Realtors Association data. So we want to make sure that as a first step, City Council looks at everybody's data types, says, yes, this is the type of data we want. We want the number of houses sold. This is the source we want you to use. You know, they've given you options, you pick it. So first, once they get that information from us, they'd go do the actual study. And the study would have 3 parts. An analysis of what the cap did using those data types. How did it change housing values? How did it change the number of long-term rentals? These are the standards we set up. And you know, there was a baseline, the cap happened, there's a new baseline. And then judge each one of the proposals according to the same data. This is our new baseline. If you do this using these metrics, this will happen. And the final part of it would be a decision matrix where you guys have come to some sort of agreement on how you're gonna judge things as a assessed failure. And they're gonna say, based on the criteria you set, the weighting you gave criteria, these 5 options would give you the result you want. And that's greatly paraphrased, but that's how it's structured. So that first meeting with you guys, we got hyper-specific. We want you to study these 3 variations of this sentence with these 4 data types from these 5 sources. They would bring it back to you. You'd say, based on these results, based on this chart, these options are the ones that's gonna get us where we want to go. So that's the overall structure of the RFP. The timing is very tight. Business license season starts May 1st. The last city council meeting is the 2nd Tuesday in April. That's pretty late to be making changes, but that's really the last opportunity we have to make changes. Whatever we do, we have to have some sort of time to get the word out to the public. I hesitate to make up examples. If there is a big change to the ordinance and the way the ordinance functions, we need to educate the public, educate license holders. We need to adapt our own systems, change our letters, change our review process, change our forms, whatever we need to do. So the turnaround here is pretty tight. If you guys approve the RFP tonight, we're gonna make sure the STR timeline is updated fully on the website, and we're gonna advertise this thing hopefully by the end of the week. We want the responses back by the end of September. And then we're gonna ask staff and city council to grade the proposals, and that's a 1-week turnaround, maybe 1.5 weeks before the October city council meeting, so we can award it with the final presentation coming no later than the last day of February. And that's gonna give us 2 readings right up against the ordinance the business license deadline without, so we can always do special meetings to accelerate it. So it is a tight turnaround. but I tried to stack it so that the largest space is for them to develop their proposals. And I'm just here for your feedback.
I think this captures the sentiment of our discussions from the last meeting, and I fully endorse what you have said, and I actually believe, again, focusing that one word, data, is the only key pivotal conversation here. So if we can be congruent across that, then I think you've captured the sentiment. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the work everyone's done prior to this has made a big difference.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right.
And last up, we have city support of local businesses through Mermaids and Mateys event. We had some work go on Center Street. It's been almost a 3-year project, even though everyone is most aware of the final phase that's been happening on Center Street. That work did happen in the summer, as it had to, because of the project schedule. Throughout the project, we've had feedback from local businesses that the street closures, the sidewalk closures, the changing availability of access has created a general impact. What we don't have is any way to specifically tie a specific dollar amount to any business in terms of what the specific financial impact of the project may have been. And that's kind of a slippery slope. Is it based on how many days the sidewalk was closed in front of you? Is it based on the general month-long thing? There's just no way to really pin down a dollar amount for each business that's been impacted. And so we kind of look back and like, what are some things that benefit all of the businesses on Folly Beach, or the majority of businesses on Folly Beach, especially the ones on Center Street? And we know that FAB regularly holds events to do just that. A lot of the FAB events evolved from boosting Center Street in the off-season, kind of creating concentrated amounts of people over a weekend to give a spending boost. And so we don't want to do that. We don't want to do our own street party, but we thought making it easier for FAB and offsetting some of their costs to do one of their planned events could help it provide kind of a bigger boost than normal. And this is a $60,000 proposal to offset FAB's cost for Mermaids and Mateys, which is the one closest in time to the end of this project. It's still in the middle of October, so I can't imagine a situation where Center Street won't be finished by then. So we do plan to hold our own, government reopening ceremony, but we thought the next FAB event, why don't we help them make that the biggest, best it can be, get people down here to see, touch, and feel Center Street, and also spend some money on our local businesses. So we had a meeting with Kelly, just talked about her, what would our contribution help them do? One is to waive the ticket price, to make it a free event, to encourage attendance. She does have a hard cap of 6,000 attendees, which would be, if it happened, right at the limit of a large festival out here. I think she said the biggest one they've had, the regular one they've had is about 5,800. So this would be a big event, but it would be free to the public to encourage attendance. It would be free they could offer all the booths and participation for free to the businesses. So any Folly business would be able to participate with no fee. And then to kind of jazz it up, it's a terrible phrase, but to get a bigger act, to make it a bigger festival, to make sure we get those 6,000 people. So that's our proposal. That's here for you guys to discuss, the method, how you feel about it.
I think it's a great idea. I don't want a hardwired decision by FAB as to what they're going to do. I think these are examples, but they should not be specified that we need to bring Motley Crue or Def Leppard in as a high performance. On the maybe. I love Motley Crue. I get it. But
Joe,
if you follow where I'm going
Could I
with this.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Doc, is there any liability to the city if we're financially participating in this? If somebody gets out here and breaks a leg or an arm or a neck, are we at all liable? Or
I don't
are we
think
just
that's-
helping to advertise and it's really a shared responsibility with FAB, or where do we stand on city liability?
I think it'd be negligible, any increase of legal exposure to the city. Fact of the matter is, if something bad happens, if these
these festivals, like this bartender getting, or a bouncer getting kicked in the head, we're gonna get dragged into that lawsuit regardless. So I don't know, I mean, it might give someone something a little more to talk about, but we're gonna be in that lawsuit anyways, and we got insurance for it, and, you know, the city's, since the city doesn't really control what's going on the ground, I can't imagine they're gonna get a lot of out of the insurance company. And that's kinda how it went with this last incident and the last lawsuit. You know, the insurance company settled it and paid some small amount on behalf of the city, and that was that.
My question would be, is it gonna be safe? I mean, that's, I guess the question to you, is 6,000 doable? I remember there was one festival we had, which I was a dispatcher at the time, and it was total chaos. So I just wanna make sure that will it be increased security?
And we talked about that today, so yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna work on shifts and that type of thing, and then they're gonna communicate with FAB as far as,
And my next question is, I mean, I feel free admission is gonna be a nice draw card for everybody in the region, and including friends and family. I don't know if there's a need for bigger bands. We've got some wonderful local bands around here. I mean,
that's just something Kelly.
I know, and did she come to you with that $60,000 figure, or could we do it for less, I guess?
That was the number that they came to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just asking.
But back to the security question, there will be tickets, but the tickets will be free. So we will be able to.
So you could pre-register for these
Well,
tickets?
just like you would ordinarily, but you know, when you checked out, it'll be free. That way we can kind of control access.
Okay. And you still have access points?
Yes.
Okay.
Gives you an idea of a count too. That's the way
Exactly.
we can figure out how many people
Yeah.
came.
Yeah.
But doesn't preclude people from showing up the day of the event, doesn't it?
Not at all.
And again, public safety's done a stellar job the last several, there's been no incidents whatsoever, so again, I'm gonna leave it to them to make that decision, how they're gonna monitor that, but I think it's a great idea. I don't own a business in the street, but maybe you wanna comment.
You know, I'm gonna recuse from voting on it because I think the way it's written, it says it's more for business, but I think it's a great sign for everybody in the area because we've all, residents, business owners, James Island residents that come out here all the time, everybody's had to deal with this cumbersome project for 12 months now. The things you forget about, there's 75 construction guys working, that's 75 parking spaces that are gone. So little things like, all that little things add up, so everybody has been impacted in some way. So I do think it's great for everybody. But just the way it's written, I don't wanna vote on it. But I think it's a great, hey man, it's finally over, let's take a breath and have some fun again.
And I do think empowering FAB is a good sign of goodwill as well, so. Thank you for that.
All right, so good. 10 minutes?
All right.
11 minutes.
I never thought we were gonna have 10 minutes. It's fair.